Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Mike Revan coming to you from Chicago. As usual, I've gotten a lot of requests for this. I don't know if I want to do this trial or not. I started to look at it to see if I would do it, and then I thought, why don't I just stream the attempt? So I don't know how far we go with it, but I'm going to kick it off. This is day one. This is the Illinois versus Yohn case. This knucklehead's trying to represent himself. I've already had little bits on it, but I'm going to start from the beginning and go for as long as as long as I think it's interesting. Let's give it a shot, shall we?
Mr. Jones, does the state wish to make an opening statement?
We do, Your Honor.
All right, you may do so.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, the defense, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. At 77 years old, Tina Lohman had raised 4 children. She was a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. She ran a successful business with her husband, Tim. But to Tina, what was most important was her family. And on November 9th, 2021, she was looking forward to celebrating the upcoming Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays with her family. She was looking forward to spending those holidays with her husband, her children, her 14 grandchildren, and her 17 great-grandchildren. She had bought the Christmas presents. They were wrapped. They were ready to be placed under the Christmas tree. But Tina Lohman, she wouldn't get to see the joy and the looks of anticipation on the faces of those grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She wouldn't get to hear them say, "Merry Christmas, Grandma," when they showed up at her house to open those presents. She wouldn't get to experience the joy of opening the presents that her husband and children had bought her. Because on November 9th, 2021, she was kidnapped by the defendant, she was robbed by the defendant, and she was brutally and violently sexually assaulted by the defendant. The defendant left Tina bruised and battered. He left her bleeding on the floor, unable to stand, emotionally and physically scarred until she would die 33 days later on December 12th, 2021. On November 9th, 2021, Tina was driving home when it was starting to get dark. She started to have car trouble. She must have been so scared, like any woman would
Your Honor,
be.
I object.
Grounds?
The death has no relevance in this case.
You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. She must have been so scared, as any woman would be, driving home at night with car trouble, alone on a dark bottom road, and no one to help her. But then a car started to approach her. How do you think she felt? Was she relieved? Did she think she was going to get help? Was she scared? Was something bad about to happen? But she was 77 years old, and this is Quincy. Nothing bad happens in Quincy, right? In Quincy, when you have trouble, people stop, they pull over, and they help you. But instead of a random act of kindness, the defendant and his accomplice showed up. They showed up to commit an act of violence, an act of terror, an act of rape. Every woman's worst nightmare on a dark bottom road. The defendant forced his way into Tina's car. Tina thought it was about taking money and jewelry from her. She thought the defendant was going to kill her, so she told her she had more stuff back at her house. The defendant's accomplice followed them in another car. But the defendant was not just satisfied with money or jewelry. The defendant wanted more from this 77-year-old great-grandmother. As the defendant drove Tina's car back toward the house as they were being followed by the accomplice, the defendant reached over, grabbing Tina and forcing his penis into her mouth. When they arrived at Tina's house, Tina was able to get away. She was able to run inside, lock the door, while the defendant and the woman with him, his accomplice, were in the garage. But the defendant wasn't done. he wasn't going to let Tina get away. He kicked in the door to her house, breaking down the door, leaving a shoe print, and the nightmare for Tina continued. The defendant stole money and jewelry from inside Tina's house. He pushed her down the stairs and he tried to get into her basement safe. Then the defendant bent Tina over a chair in her living room. He shoved his penis into her vagina. He shoved his penis into her mouth. He told her to act like she liked it. And then when the defendant was finished using Tina for his sick, his twisted purposes, he sprayed her mouth and body with carpet cleaner. While the defendant was doing all of these things, robbing her, assaulting her, his accomplice, the woman that was with him, was holding a knife and threatening Tina's life. After the defendant finished robbing Tina of her dignity, he fled. He fled with Tina's purse. He fled with her jewelry. He took her money. He fled with Tina's car. He even took Tina's rosary. Then he went across the river to Hannibal and he played video poker at a gas station. Tina's husband, Tim Schmidt, arrived home. He found Tina on the floor, crying and bleeding, crying that she'd been raped, bleeding from her body. Next to Tina was the knife that her life had been threatened with. Tim, her husband, gave Tina a gun because Tina was so terrified the defendant and his accomplice were going to come back. Then he called 911. Tim asked Tina to tell him what had happened, and she relived that nightmare again as she told him how she had been violated, how she had been robbed, how she had been left bloody and bruised on that floor. For the weeks after her assault, Tina was in pain, both emotional pain and physical pain. She never had the opportunity to recover because on December 12th, 2021, Tina's heart broke and she died. Tina won't be able to take that witness stand. She won't be able to tell you what the defendant and the accomplice did to her. Instead, her husband will tell you what Tina told him that night when he found her crying and bleeding on their living room floor. Tina can't tell you about what happened on November 9th, 2021, but you will get to see the photographs that were taken at Blessing Hospital by the nurse, Jacqueline Oglesby. The photographs of Tina's mouth, where the defendant had sprayed her with carpet cleaner. The photographs of Tina's vagina, where the defendant had shoved his penis inside of her. The photographs of Tina's body, where showing that she had been left bruised and beaten. Tina won't be able to come here and tell you about the pain. She won't be able to tell you about the humiliation she suffered. You will get to hear from Dr. Ada Kagumba, Tina's doctor, and she'll tell you about the injuries she observed on Tina the week after the defendant had sexually assaulted her. Tina won't be able to come here. She won't be able to look the defendant in the eye and say, "You did this to me." But on that cold, dark November night, one of the reasons Tina was so terrified is she had no idea who the person was that attacked her. She didn't know his name, she didn't know where he had come from, and she didn't know where he went. But she did know. She knew he had red hair, she knew he had a red beard, and she knew he had her purse, jewelry, and her car. And the day after November 9, 2021, on November 10th, 2021, the day after she had been brutally and violently robbed and sexually assaulted, the U.S. Marshals found the defendant in Springfield, Missouri. When they found the defendant in Springfield, Illinois. When they found the defendant in Springfield, the defendant had Tina's purse over his shoulder. Inside that purse were Tina's jewelry, Tina's voter ID card. On the defendant's wrist was Tina's watch. And inside the defendant's pocket was Tina's rosary. On the defendant's feet were a pair of shoes that exactly matched the shoe print left at the seen at Tina's house. And just down the street from where the defendant was found was Tina's car covered in the defendant's fingerprints. And despite the defendant's efforts to destroy any DNA by spraying carpet cleaner on Tina, there was male DNA found by the Illinois State Police. Male DNA was found on the Depends, the adult diaper that Tina had been wearing that night of November 9th, 2021. Male DNA that was on Tina's Depends was determined to be 310 times more likely to be the defendant's DNA. The can of carpet cleaner that the defendant had used to spray Tina's mouth and body that was found at the house, that was tested for fingerprints. And the defendant's fingerprint was found on that can of carpet cleaner. What the defendant did to Tina Lohman on November 9th, 2021, it was horrific. It was violent. It was a nightmare. It was something no woman, no 77-year-old grandmother should ever have to experience. What the defendant did to Tina Lohman on November 9th, 2021, it was sick. It was twisted. It was perverted. What he did to Tina Lohman is called home invasion. It's called aggravated kidnapping. It's called aggravated vehicular hijacking. It's called residential burglary. And it's called aggravated criminal sexual assault. And at the end of this case, you will be called to hold the defendant accountable for what he did to Tina Lohman on November 9th, 2021. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Yohn, care to make any opening statements?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Okay, I already did this. Wow, I hadn't seen it. I'd seen it a little bit, but not all of prosecutor's opening statement. That is just absolutely horrific. So we already did this, but I'm going to let it run for completeness here. His opening statement is horrible. It's even more horrible after I've seen the complete prosecutor's opening statement.
what you just heard were theatrics. Theatrics, something one puts forth in order to obtain and persuade you to obtain a conviction in a trial. I will concede that some things Ms. Keck here stated do in fact ring true. However, they're not as she stated them. There are many discrepancies in this case that have yet to be finalized. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today this is going to be very hard for all of us. We have people here in the stands. It's going to be extremely hard for them. It's going to be extremely hard for you. It's extremely hard for myself. I'm the one here on these claims. However, these claims are not quite true. And I will show you that today. I apologize for having you awesome people here today. Yes, it's a duty of citizenship to have to serve on a jury every so often. There's not many smiles today. However, I did see some yesterday. I appreciate them smiles. That has brought a light to my soul as I've been stuck here in this county jail, tormented for the last 19 months. I ask that you forgive my appearance. This is not normally me. I normally have hair. I do not expect you to feel sorry for me by any means. I also understand you'd much rather be enjoying your summer at home rather than being in this courtroom. However, the powers that compel have brought you here today. I once heard that trials are based on persuasion. Who has the best persuasion in their words? Who can be persuaded by the persuadee? Words like persuasion, I believe they're negative myself. They're kind of like manipulation, very negative. It's negative in my insight to want to persuade somebody, especially when you want to persuade somebody as to the charges here today and not have the proof needed to present those theatrics and not have the proof needed to present those theatrics, to persuade one's life away. As Ms. Keck stated, these claims are sickening in herself. If they were to truly happen, they're sick, they're demented, They're horrendous, horrid. Persuasion, I see that in the same sense as to persuade something that is not true is also sick. These are demented crimes. Ladies and gents, I'm more in agreement with the word logical. To be logical seems to be more so valuable than to persuade some. Also, the meaning of logical, to expect because of what has gone before, what has happened in prior arrangements, prior times, based on or using logic. The definition of logic, correct reasoning, or the science of this. What is expected by the working of cause and effect? The working of cause and effect. Today and throughout this trial, you'll see that the cause does not hold the effect it should. The alleged cause does not hold the effect it should. I'm sure a lot of you are logical human beings. I myself base my life on logical, being honest, being one that holds value to logic and honesty. It's my favorite pastime, present and future. Today, I ask that those of you here be logical, not just the jurors who have the ability to judge this situation, but everybody. Logical is what I would rather people be. Today, I will show you a lot of things that are not logical. Throughout this trial, I will show you a lot of things that are not logical. Persuasion is not logical. I myself, personally, I promise not to attempt to persuade you, nor will I manipulate you. I do not find pleasure in doing such. As stated yesterday, I'm a pro se defendant. I'm held to the same standards as any attorney here today. I do not expect you to feel sorry for me because I'm a pro se defendant. I expect you to take it at what you valued it as, along with agreeing with law, taking the law into consideration. They say an opening statement is made to acquaint the finder of facts with yourself or with the claim placed forth and what you intend to prove. That's exactly what I plan to do today. Myself, I would say proof is a rare thing to come by these days. No one has absolute proof except for, per se, you have these cameras here in this room today, and I can prove that you are here today. There's a lot of claims placed forth that do not have an effect that coincides with them. I intend to show and prove you that today and throughout this trial. What I also intend to show and prove you are blatant lies. Incredible and impossible happenings. We all know what incredible and impossible means. Impossible means not possible. Incredible means it's not credible. I also intend to prove you improper procedure, coincidences. Throughout this trial, you'll see some of the most major coincidences you have ever seen in your lives. And they are established, and I'm sure some of the witnesses will attest to them. There are major coincidences in this case. As stated, I talked about logical. I intend to show you that these things do not follow the definition of logic. I will show you what coercion, manipulation,
My chat always finds the humor.
I will show you how certain persons think it is absolutely funny to be vindictive, to lie, to place forth claims, and that would be from the horse's mouth. I will prove to you reason for false testimony from some who may or may not testify throughout this adventure.
Oh, this is an adventure.
I'll show you how other law enforcement think these events that are alleged to have happened are quite odd themselves. stating such in an indirect way. That is law enforcement, and I intend to prove that to you. I will show you how many of the claims and things placed forth by all here today, witnesses and the claimant herself, just do not add up or coincide with each other. The prosecution intends to prove to those of you here today that a 77-year-old woman has been brutally beat, battered, sexually assaulted is the proper pronunciation or the proper usage, term usage in trials. They intend to prove to you that a 77-year-old woman was home invaded, kidnapped, hijacked, thrown downstairs at 77 years old. Thrown downstairs.
He has no idea.
Some of you are young. If you were thrown downstairs, what would that damage do to you? Thrown downstairs in a violent manner. The prosecution intends to prove to you that a 77-year-old woman was thrown downstairs in a violent manner. All these claims are violent. They're sick. They're demented. All of these being brutal, violent, heinous. Those are the titles of alleged claims the judge has placed forth. As Ms. Keck has also stated, claims of what I've just relayed to you and more. Some of these descriptions you will hear throughout this trial. I aim to present to you, those of you here today, and I aim to present to those of you from the mouth who spoke them, these claims, and that they are not true. What's better than the person who spoke them? The state's attorney here, Mr. Jones and Ms. Keck, I believe they both have great intentions. I'm sure they do. However, they're here to attest to something they do not know themselves. They do not have full and 100% proof of. They're just doing their jobs. I don't expect you to hold it against them. I only expect you to be fair. I spoke of, at the beginning, this being very hard for me. Obviously it is. I'm the defendant here today. It's my life in jeopardy. It's my life on the line. Not only is it hard for me, I spoke of it being hard for, well, everybody here. I'm sure those of you in the jury today did not want to hear the sickening claims or have to go through this. All we can do is take what we have and place weight on it from our own views. Mainly you people here today, you jurors. Today you will be presented what some call evidence. Some of these presentations are very odd and would lead you to say, guilty, he's guilty. These are what I spoke of when I said I'd show you coincidences. Those coincidences are by far some of the biggest coincidences one will ever see in a lifetime, most never seeing such. Never having the chance to. Why? Because there are coincidences that are extremely rare. There are things that just don't happen. A believer of coincidences is what I intend to make you throughout this trial. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, devious crimes, they are what I myself would call the worst, the very worst. I think they're worse than murder. That's my point of view. That's if they were true also. I do not mean to offend anyone here today. However, they simply are not true. My little brother used to run to mother and say, "Mom, BB hit me."
That's just, I've already been through this, but that's just such a crazy position to take. He's like, I agree that the crimes are heinous, so he must be saying I didn't do them by implication. But the crimes happened. They aren't fake. We have evidence of that. The only thing you could say is you got the wrong guy. But that's a tough sell when you have all of her possessions and your DNA's all over her stuff and hers on yours and fingerprints and everything else. It's incredibly stupid strategy.
Me. BB was my sister. You should say, BB hit me. Mom would say, well, my lovely young man, where are the marks to prove such? Well, my mom, show me the marks. He could not show any marks. Mother would say, I can't tell where the marks are. True story. Come to find out,
This is true.
my brother only had the remote taken from him. Scooby-Doo was his favorite. He would watch it end on end for hours.
Yeah, we don't care.
During them times when my brother would make them claims, we would all come to find out in the end that he had just simply walked away from the TV. Sis picked up the remote and he wanted the TV back. The tales he was telling, you will see that today, here, and throughout this trial, there are major tales told. Tales that are tall, simply very tall tales. Then, in reference to my brother, the lack of marks gave my mother reasonable doubt. Today, I intend to prove an extreme amount of reasonable doubt. Throughout this trial, I will prove extreme amount of unreasonable doubt, or excuse me, reasonable doubt.
These crimes are heinous, but there are still funny moments. Extreme amount of reasonable doubt is t-shirt worthy right there.
Reasonable doubt, they say, is any idea or condition that interferes with a person.
Grounds
All right. The jury is left to find reasonable doubt on their own.
sustained.
Jury, throughout this week, there will be all kinds of words placed forth, strong words, educated words, words some of us may not understand. There will be displays. There will be what many call evidence, and there will be testimonies. I will show you, and if you may, prove to you how things are not as they say.
Words some of
Not as they
us will
seem.
not understand.
How most just are not possible, also known as impossible. As I stated earlier, I intend to be logical. I will do just that. I humbly ask that you bear with me throughout this process. Bear with all of us, those of the court, those of the prosecution, and everybody. Recesses, intermissions, just please bear with us and be honest, as I'm sure you all can be, and be fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Well, that just
Jones, Mrs. Keck, are you prepared to call your first witness?
We are, Your
I liked
Honor.
it.
If you do so, please.
People would call Tim Schmidt to the stand.
In the sense that it'll bring a conviction faster.
Come forward to the clerk, raise your right hand.
Now, I've done that, but I haven't seen any of the trial. This is first witness.
Testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Coming to my right, we have a witness chair back there. All right, Mr. Jones, when you're ready with your questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please tell us your name?
My name is Timothy G. Schmidt.
Mr. Schmidt, how old are you?
I'm 66 years old.
Mr. Schmidt, where do you currently live?
4300 North Bottom Road.
Mr. Schmidt, were you married at one point?
Yes.
Who were you married to?
I was married to Christine Lohman,
How long were you and Miss Lohman married?
a little over 2 years.
Were you together longer than that?
Yes, 36 years.
So you were together for 36 years and married for 2 years.
Yes.
I want to talk to you a little bit about Tina. First, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 77.
Wait, I missed that. They were married for 2 years, but together for 36. And I'm assuming that we're talking about the victim here.
Do you recognize that person?
Yes, that was my wife, Christine Lohman.
Your Honor, we'd ask People's Exhibit 77 be introduced as evidence and published to the jury.
Mr. Yohn, any objection?
No.
request is granted, we will admit People's Exhibit 77 without objection. You may publish to the jury.
I don't know if we get to see these or not. I haven't watched. Well, there we go. Oh,
Did Tina have children?
Yes,
How many children did she have?
she had 4 children.
And she have 14 grandkids
Yes,
and 17 great grandchildren.
and probably more. Yeah.
Was Christina big on the holidays?
what do you
Yes,
mean
she
probably
was.
more?
Like to buy Christmas presents?
She loved Christmas.
Love Christmas. And you guys live together at 4300 North Bottom Road here in Quincy, is that right?
Yes.
I want to talk to you about the night of November 9th, 2020, okay?
Just this sweet old
That
lady.
night or that morning, did you go to work?
Yes.
Where do you work?
I own American Builders Supply.
Let me talk about that for a second. Did Tina work with you at American Builder Supply?
Yes, she did.
You guys ran that
Yes.
business together
Yes.
for the 38 years that you guys were together?
She was there not quite 38 years. She was there. I think she came on in 1993. So, but
long
quite a
time,
while.
but Not quite.
Quite a
38.
while.
Okay. You left work that morning, or
Yes.
left for work that morning. Where did you go after work? What time did you leave work?
I left work sometime after 5 o'clock, and I went to Farm and Home. It was just before deer season, and I like to hunt deer, so I went over looking to see if there was anything I wanted to get before season opened up.
Get ready for deer hunting.
Getting ready for deer hunting, yes.
Doesn't get much more country than farm at home in Quincy. I'm just saying.
How long were you there?
I'd say probably, I guess, a half hour, 40 minutes or something.
And you went home after that?
Yes,
Got home around 6 p.m., give or take?
yes.
It was November 9th, 6 p.m. Was the sun up? Was the sun down? Tell me.
It was dark.
When you got home around 6 p.m. And you pulled up
All
here,
right, object. Leading.
All right, this is foundational purposes, so I will overrule that objection.
when you got home around 6 p.m., did you notice anything unusual about your house?
I noticed that the garage door was open.
It's the
There were
sense I
some
get.
items on the floor in the garage.
You seem like sweet people.
The car was gone. There were some tire marks in the yard.
So I'm going to hand you, or I have the bailiff hand you, some photographs as we go through your testimony. And for the record, it's going to be people's 35 through 50 inclusive, and then people's exhibit 80 and 81. And I'm going to ask you to look through
I'm dropping
those.
them-
Tell me when
I'll
you get a
drop them an
chance
invite.
to look through.
I doubt they want to get in on this. All right, that's a decent question. Of course, the case can go on. The crime is against the people of the state of Illinois. So you know, if you can't proceed without a victim, then you would have no murder trials whatsoever. I do not know why they did not charge him with murder. They may have not had the evidence to do so, or it may not have been related at all. I doubt it was completely unrelated, but for all we know, and I have no idea, I'm just making this up, but she could have, you know, had stage 4 cancer and been ready to go absolutely unrelated to this, or this event could have caused her death. But they can't prove it in terms of but causation is difficult, and murder would be a tough case to make. I don't know, but whatever. I decided to adjust that because I'm getting a lot of those questions. It's a good question. Victims die all the time during a prosecution, and that doesn't stop the prosecution, but it can make it
through all those.
difficult.
In a general sense, are those photographs?
That's your only good witness.
Exterior and interior of your house, your residence at 4300 North Bottom Road. Is that what they generally are?
Yes,
And do those photographs show what you saw on November 9th, 2021, when you were in the residence and as you were going into the residence?
yes,
Your Honor, we'd ask that those exhibits be introduced into evidence and leave given to publish them during the course of the rest of the questioning.
Mr. Yohn, any objection?
Excuse me, what exhibits were them, Your Honor? 80, 81, and the ones of the home?
35 through 50, then 80 and 81.
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibits will be admitted without objection and statement published.
Up on the screen is People's Exhibit 35, and actually you have a monitor there. It should be on that monitor as well.
Certainly wouldn't
Can you
surprise
tell
me.
us what this is?
that's my home.
And you talked about the garage door. Is this the garage door that you were talking about?
Yes,
And you said when you got there, the garage door was open. Is that what we see here?
yes,
And you said there were some things lying on the floor,
yes,
and there wasn't a car in the garage. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Why did the fact that there wasn't a car in the garage and the garage door being open at 6 p.m. at night trouble you, concern you?
Well, my wife Tina drove the car, the Toyota Avalon, that would normally be parked there, and of course the car was gone. And then I noticed the door was kicked open.
And we'll get to that in a minute. You said there was also some tire marks. Can you tell me where you saw those tire marks?
They were there by the bush there to the right of the garage.
We'll put up on the screen People's Exhibit 36. Are these the tire marks that you're talking about?
Yes,
And have those tire marks been in that part of the yard when you left that morning?
no,
You told us that you also noticed that the door in the garage was broken. Is that right?
yes,
Go on to the next slide. Here on the screen, we have People's Exhibit 37. You talked about these items lying on the floor. Let's talk about those first. The items on the floor, was that unusual? Was that what the garage looked like when you left that morning?
no.
Tell us what was different.
Well, the car would have been there, and those items there on the floor of the garage there would not have been there. The car would have been there.
Also in your garage, did you have some power tools?
Yes,
Specifically, did you have a chainsaw and a hedge trimmer?
yes,
Was the chainsaw and hedge trimmer in that garage when you left that morning?
yes,
When you came that night at 6 p.m., was the chainsaw and the hedge trimmer in that garage?
no,
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 15. Do you recognize that?
that's my chainsaw.
Chainsaw that was not in that garage
Yes,
when you got there on November 9th at 6 p.m.
that's correct.
Going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 16. Do you recognize that?
That's my hedge trimmer.
The hedge trimmer that was in that garage when you left that morning and
Yes,
was gone that night. Is that right?
yes.
You also told us that there was a car missing from the garage. It was Tina's car.
Yes.
Can you tell me what make and model that car was?
It was a 2018 Toyota Avalon.
What color was it?
It was it was white.
And do you know the license plate for that? If you don't, that's fine. I just don't.
It's ABS for American Builders Supply, and I don't remember the numbers on it.
But the first 3 letters were ABS, and then there was a number after.
Yes,
Now, you told us that when you came into the garage, you noticed that a door had been kicked in. Is this the door that you're talking about?
yes,
And is this People's 38 is up on the screen now? We're looking at a view of that door.
yes,
Looks like there's some damage by the lock and by the handle. Is that fair to say?
yes,
Also looks like there's some footprints on the door.
yes.
Was that door damaged like that when you left that morning for work?
No,
Were the footprints on the door when you left that morning for work?
no,
Excellent. People's Exhibit 39, kind of an angle view of that same door. Is that right, sir?
yes.
Again, was the door damaged at the deadbolt and the handle like that?
No,
And if we look behind the door, it looks like there's a hole in the drywall where the door's been forced open.
that was not there.
Next slide, please. People's Exhibit 40, a close-up of that door showing how violently it was kicked open. Was it like that morning when you left?
No,
It was like that when you came home at 6 p.m.
yes,
When you came inside and you walked through that door, you walked through the garage that we just saw and you walked through that damaged door, did you see someone sitting on the floor?
I saw my wife sitting on the floor in tears.
Tell me about that. You said she was in tears. Was she crying?
She was crying, and she told me that they raped her.
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds?
Testimonial.
Overruled.
When you heard that from your wife, who you've been with for 38 years, did you notice anything sitting on the floor in the area around her?
Well, she was sitting on I guess it was a blanket or a quilt.
And did you notice anything about that quilt?
There was blood on it.
Up on the screen is People's Exhibit 41, and if we can orientate ourselves, that door that you walked in, where would it be in relationship to this photograph?
Where that walker is, it would be to the north of that. Yes,
So if we're facing the picture, you're basically walking in from the left side of the picture in, fair to say?
yes,
And you said that you saw your wife, Tina, sitting on the floor on a quilt. Is that the area that you saw her?
yes. They're in front of that green chair. Yes,
Did you also notice a spray can and a knife on the floor?
yes,
And we can see that spray can and that knife on the floor.
yes,
People's Exhibit 42, a close-up view of that blanket, some blood stains, and the can. Correct?
yes,
People's 43. Again,
This is actually.
I'm sorry, 80. I apologize for speaking 80, the can, and again, blood stains in the blanket.
Yes,
I want to talk about that spray can, that 409 carpet cleaner spray can. Was that on the floor when you left at 6 o'clock that morning?
no,
People's 81 showing the blood on the floor. Was that blood that was coming from your wife?
yes.
And what part of her body was it coming from?
It came from it came from underneath her.
Lower regions of her body,
Her lower
specifically
region.
her genital region.
Yes.
I'm for it.
People's 43. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
That is a railroad spike that was converted into a knife.
Did that knife belong to you and Tina?
It belonged to me, yes.
Was it stored on the floor like that?
No, it was stored in a drawer.
Was it on the floor when you left that morning?
No,
Next slide, please. People's 44. Just a close-up view of that same knife. People's 45. So close-up view of the spray can. And the next slide, 46. It's a close-up view of the spray can. You told us you walked in after you saw those things that we saw, and you heard Tina say that they raped me. Explained her condition. She was crying. She appeared to be emotional to you,
yes, she did.
sobbing.
Yes,
Did she tell you that she was worried they were going to come back?
yes, she did.
Because of that, what did you do?
I went into the bedroom and I got a handgun.
And what did you do with that gun?
I brought the gun out and I gave it to Tina. And then I got my phone and I called 911.
After you called 911, did you ask Tina what had happened to her?
Yes,
And did she tell you what had happened to her?
she said they raped me.
And did she tell you how the rape started?
She told me that she was driving home on Cook's Lane, and she got to the front or Bonanzinga in Cook's Lane, and the lights were not on in the car. And she stopped there at the stop sign, and there was a man came and went to help her to turn the lights on, and he got in the car with her and drove off with her.
In the car.
Yes, in the car.
Did she want to go with him?
No,
After the man got in the car and took off with her, did Tina tell you where they went?
she said they went up into the bottoms, the North Bottoms.
And did she tell you while they were in that area, the North Bottoms, what the man made her do to her top?
Yes,
What did Tina say that the man made her do to her top?
she said that he made her take her top off.
And did she tell you that he made her take her top off so that he could touch her breast?
Yes,
After this man did that to her, did Tina say that the man forced her to perform oral sex on him?
yes,
Did Tina tell you what she thought was going to happen to her?
she told me that she thought that they were going to kill her.
Because she was worried they were going to kill her, what did she say to them?
She told me that she told them that she had some jewelry up at the house and some money.
Now, at some point, did she also tell you that the male had made a threat to her about what would happen if her husband was home?
She said, he said that if your husband's there, I'm going to kill you both.
Tina then told you that he went to the house.
Yes.
And when they got to the house, what did Tina say happened in the garage?
She said that the male there was a female there, that they got into an argument.
And during the argument, Tina was able to get away.
Tina went into the house and she locked the door.
And when she locked the door, what did she say the male did?
Well, she went into the bedroom on the east side of the house and went to look for the handgun. But the handgun I had moved from the nightstand because we had grandchildren up
Husband
there,
of the victim.
and I was afraid one of those grandchildren were going to get a hold of that gun. So I put it up high where they couldn't get to it.
She couldn't find the gun.
She couldn't find the gun.
What did the male do to the door?
The male kicked the door in.
And after the male kicked the door in, what did Tina say happened next?
She said, she told him where the jewelry was. It was in a chest of drawers there in the bedroom.
I keep like the screen.
Up on the screen, we have People's 48, which has been introduced into evidence. Told us that Tina had jewelry in the chest of drawers. Is
Then
this
don't watch
where
it,
that
Mary.
chest of drawers was that had Tina's jewelry?
Yes.
My God.
Was that what the chest of drawers looked like when you were there at 6 o'clock that morning before you
No.
left for work?
No.
And when you were in the home, was there jewelry missing from the house?
No.
There was no jewelry missing?
No.
Okay. I apologize. At 6 o'clock when you got back after you had talked to Tina, was there jewelry missing then?
Yes. Yes, there was.
After Tina told this person about the jewelry, did the
I'm going to say this now because I'm getting a lot of comments. This is a horrific crime. I'm aware of it. I'm dealing with it the way I think is appropriate. If this is too much for you to listen to, I don't blame you one bit. Don't listen to it.
did Tina say that person then threw her down some stairs to the basement?
Yes.
And tell me what Tina said about the basement.
She told him that there was a safe down the basement.
Do you in fact have a safe in the basement?
Yes.
What did Tina say happened with the safe in the basement?
They went to the safe to the basement, and there's a board that covers the face of it, and that was moved out of the way. And Tina didn't know the combination to it. So the male went to
Try to open the safe.
try to open it up with the knob on the safe.
And when he tried to open it up with the knob on the safe and he wasn't able to get into it, what did Tina say to him?
She said that the safe was wired to the police department, and now the police are going to be coming.
People's Exhibit 49. Is this your basement?
Yes.
And you talked about, we see a gray door here. Is that the safe?
Yes.
You talked about a white cover. Is that what we see here?
Yes.
Was the white cover on that safe when you left that morning?
It was in front of the door on the safe. Yes.
And again, we see a different angle of that same door. That's the safe you're talking about, right?
Yes,
The knob there, the handle's there.
yes.
After Tina told the male that the safe was wired to the police and the police were coming, did Tina say that the man took her back upstairs?
Yes.
And when he took her back upstairs, what did she say occurred upstairs by that chair?
She said he raped her.
You mentioned
Yeah.
that
Well, he calls
she
theatrics.
shared
I
with
call
you that
damn
there was
good
a male
evidence.
and a female in the house.
Yes.
Did she talk to you about the female and specifically that knife that we saw?
She talked about the female and how the female had threatened to kill her with that knife.
Tina went to the emergency room that night?
Yes.
I wonder if his the co-conspirator here pled to something or something. I don't know why they're not being tried together here. Believe me that there's a reason, but I just don't know anything aside from what I'm watching right now.
And maybe a week later, she went to see her OBGYN, Dr. Ada Kaguma. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were with Tina pretty much every day from November 9th to when she passed away on December 12th.
Yes.
That last month of her life, was she in pain?
Yes,
Thank
she
you.
was.
That makes
She
sense.
hurt from the injuries that she suffered?
Yes, she did.
Did you see bruises to her?
I saw some bruises and she hurt a lot on her tailbone.
It was hard for her to sit,
Yes.
hard for her to stand.
Yes.
Was she having
Objection,
difficulty?
Your Honor.
Grounds?
Testimonial. The
Was she having difficulty eating or drinking because of the burns in her mouth?
Yes.
Is it fair to say she was in pain until she died?
Yes, she was.
I think he's trying to make a hearsay objection, although I'm not sure.
Judge, if I could have a moment, we're going to move on to some physical exhibits.
I mean, the man's testifying. To say it's testimonial is not
Judge, I
a
apologize. We're going to do photos.
good objection that I can think of.
Exhibits. You got to look at them first.
But he seems to do it when he's
For
sort
the
of
record,
quoting her,
I'm
which
having
would
the
be a
bailiff
hearsay
bring up
issue.
people's 50 and 51. Tell me when you had a chance to look at those.
Yes. Good.
Do those photographs
Make you
show
lie.
that white
Along with this guy when he gets convicted.
Toyota Avalon that you, I'm sorry, 51 and 52, I apologize, I misspoke. People's 51 and 52, do those show that white Toyota Avalon that
Yes.
belonged to Tina?
Yes. It belonged to American Builders Supply.
I apologize. Company car that she drove.
Yes.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's 51 and 52 be introduced and published to the jury.
Any objection?
No, sir.
All right. 51 and 52 are admitted without objection, may be published.
Yes, this trial's still going as far as I know. I was going to try to catch it up this
And
weekend.
then the license plate, like we talked about, ABS.
Yes.
Might be too ambitious.
Yes.
And People's 52. Back of the car, same license plate.
Yes.
We're going to have the bailiff hand you People's 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, and 63.
That was that was one of the few comic moments in this deal so far. The English lesson from the defendant there. Yeah, I kind of look at this like the Brooks trial. That was horrific too. In terms of numbers, that was even more horrific.
Have you had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Let's start with People's Exhibit 57. People's Exhibit 57, do you recognize that photograph? Do you recognize what's in that photograph? I'm going to ask you about it there on the photograph you got in hand.
Okay, hang on here.
That makes sense. Yeah, a lot of those issues should have come up in pretrial motions.
Okay, yes.
Do you recognize that watch and bracelet?
Yes.
And who does that watch and bracelet belong to?
They belong to Tina.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's Exhibit 57 be introduced into evidence and published.
Any objection?
Absolutely not, Your Honor.
People's Exhibit 57 is admitted without objection and may be published.
This watch and this bracelet belong to your wife, Tina.
Yes.
Have you seen her wear that watch and that bracelet on multiple occasions?
Yes.
If you could look at the next picture, People's 58. In that picture, there is a watch and a pin. Do you see that pin in the middle of the?
I mean, I know this guy's stupid, but you get caught with all of this stuff that is absolutely unique and to her. There aren't tons of these things. And you have a collection that cross-references a group of unique things, and it's in your possession. It doesn't get any dumber.
The picture.
Yes.
Do you recognize that watch and pin?
Yes.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's 58 be admitted into evidence and published to the jury.
Any objection?
Absolutely not, Your Honor.
All right. No objection. People's Exhibit 58 will be admitted and may be published to the jury.
That watch,
Yes.
had you seen Tina wear that watch?
Yes.
That pin. Can you tell me about that pin? How do you recognize that pin?
If anybody has ever watched Star Trek before,
I've seen Star Trek.
well, we bought that at the Star Trek display or out at the Las Vegas Hilton in I don't remember what year it was, but
The shape on that is a Star Trek emblem.
yes,
It's the badge that the officers wear on their uniform.
yes,
And you and Tina were Star Trek fans?
we were Star Trek fans.
Can you look at the next picture, People's Exhibit 59? Do you recognize the items in that picture?
Yes,
And did those belong to Tina as well?
yes, they did.
We'd ask that People's 59 be admitted into evidence and published, Your Honor.
Any objection?
You want a moment, Your Honor? No, sir.
People's Exhibit 59 will be admitted without objection and may be published to the jury.
First, on the left side of this picture, there's a, I guess, brown. Ms. Keck, what color would you call that? Gold purse. Do you recognize that gold purse?
Yes,
Who did that gold purse belong to?
it belonged to Tina.
Had you seen her wear that purse multiple times?
Yes,
In the middle of the picture, we see checks, and it looks like an ABS. Is that, do you recognize that check?
yes, that's from American Builders Supply.
Your business?
Yes,
In fact, there's a P.O. Box, Quincy, Illinois. Do you recognize that P.O. Box and the Quincy, Illinois address?
yes,
Your business?
yes,
It's made payable to who?
to Tina.
And
Tina
Tina's
Lohman.
your wife?
Yes,
And at the bottom of this, we see a voter ID card. And do you recognize the name Christine Lohman at the bottom of that?
Yes,
Is that your wife?
yes,
There's an address on that voter ID card, 4300 North Bottom Road, Quincy, Illinois. Do you recognize that address?
yes, that's my home.
And here there's a bag of jewelry. We showed you that bag of jewelry in preparation for trial, is that right?
Yes,
Did you recognize that jewelry in that bag?
yes.
And who did that jewelry belong to?
It belonged to Christine or Tina Lohman,
Your wife.
my wife.
Could you look at the next picture, which is People's Exhibit 60? You recognize the items in that?
60?
60.
Hang on a minute here. Yes,
Specifically, is there a rosary in the middle of that?
Objection, Your Honor.
Grounds?
Leading.
All right, overruled. Again, it's foundational.
Specifically, is there a necklace in the middle of that picture?
there's a rosary in there.
Well, I know it's a rosary. I just didn't want to use that word. So is there a rosary in that picture?
Yes,
Did you recognize that rosary?
yes.
Who'd that rosary belong to?
It belonged to Tina.
We'd ask that People 60 be introduced into evidence and published.
Any objection?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, grounds?
It's my jewelry. It's my rosary.
All right. So we're going to admit People's Exhibit 60 over objection.
Had you seen Tina with that rosary before?
Yes,
People 61 is a close-up of that same rosary. You recognize, again, the same rosary?
yes,
We'd ask that 61 be introduced and published.
Any objection?
Once again, the same objection, Your Honor.
All right. And the grounds for the objection?
It's my jewelry. It's my rosary.
I'll admit the People's Exhibit 61 over objection.
When you last saw Tina with that rosary, was it broken like that?
no,
I'm going to have you look at People's Exhibit 62 and 63 and ask if you recognize both of those.
'62 and '63.
Yes.
Yes, that's Tina's purse.
And again, the property in that purse, you recognize as belonging to Tina.
Yes, what I could see, yes.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People 62 and 63 be introduced and published to the jury.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
People's Exhibit 62 and 63 are admitted without objection and may be published to the jury.
Again, the gold or brown purse that you had seen your wife wear many times, fair to say, in People 62, correct?
Yes,
And People 63. Saying the gold and brown purse, there's U.S. currency inside the purse, and then the jewelry, the check, and the voter ID card that you identified, correct?
yes.
Illinois v. Yohn.
Sorry.
Were all the things that we just saw in the photographs, were all those things missing on November 9th at 6 p.m. when you arrived at the house?
Yes,
And were they, to the best of your knowledge, all in the house when you left for work that morning?
Yes.
Your Honor, we've been going for a couple of hours. I've got a few more questions with regard to physical exhibits. It's going to take a couple seconds to get those out. It might be a good time for a break. I can prepare those things so that we're not
How long do you think you'll need?
10 minutes.
All right, we'll take a brief recess for 10 minutes, till 10 till 11.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Record, we are returning after a break. It's now a few minutes before 11 a.m. and the jurors have returned to their jury box. And Mr. Jones is in the process of direct examination of Kim Schmidt. Are you prepared to continue, Mr. Jones?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, you may do so.
Your Honor, so Mr. Schmidt, for the record, what we're now going to open is People Exhibit Number 2. Do you recognize what I'm holding in my hand?
Yes, that is the railroad spike that was turned into a knife that was on the floor in the house.
That we saw in those other
You
pictures?
saw in the pictures, yes.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's Exhibit 2 be introduced into evidence.
Any objection?
No, absolutely not, Your Honor.
People's Exhibits 2 is admitted without objection.
And now we have People's Exhibit 7. You recognize this bag of jewelry?
Kind of hard to see, but yeah.
Your Honor, can I have the bailiff?
Yes.
Yes,
And who does that jewelry belong to?
that jewelry belonged to my wife.
It was in your house at 6 o'clock in the morning when you left that morning?
Yeah.
And it was missing at 6 p.m. when you returned? Your Honor, we'd ask the People's Exhibit 7 be introduced into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
7 is admitted without objection.
He's
People's
just getting
Exhibit 8.
steamrolled. And should be, but. Wow.
Specifically in People's Exhibit 8, do you see that rosary?
Yes,
And who did that rosary belong to?
rosaries belonged to my wife, Tina Christine.
We'd ask the People's 8 be introduced and admitted into evidence, Your Honor.
All this evidence is so incriminating. They laid a good foundation with it, but if you're an attorney, you just got to object left and right to try to keep this out, because there's no way you avoid conviction with all this stuff going in.
Any objection?
Yes, sir.
It puts
Grounds?
It's my jewelry, Your Honor.
them in the wrong place.
People's Exhibit 3 will be admitted.
It's my jewelry, Your Honor, is not is not going to fly.
Over objection.
People's Exhibit Number 9 is the coin purse, the ABS checks, and the voter ID card. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes,
I don't think more people are going pro se. You see it because it turns into such a circus like this. There's always a small percentage of people have tried it from the beginning of time. They've had very little success with it. Once in a while, someone knows what they're doing, but very, very rare. So I don't think it's any grand trend.
Did those belong to Tina Loman as well? They were in your house on the 9th when you left for work and missing when you returned.
yes.
We'd ask that People's Exhibit 9 be introduced into evidence, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
People's Exhibit 9 is admitted without objection.
Exhibit 10.
It's interesting to me. A lot of these questions that I get about stuff like that, like sovereign citizens or are people more contemptuous, I don't know. I haven't done a survey on it, but people have been doing stupid stuff. They've been in contempt. There have been sovereign citizens, all this stuff since the beginning of time. The difference is now it's on YouTube and you see it. That's the difference.
Sir, is that a set of car keys for that Toyota Avalon that we saw the pictures of?
Yes,
And did those car keys belong to Tina Lohman?
yes,
To the best of your knowledge, you had them when you left for work that morning,
yes,
and they were missing when you returned.
yes,
People's Exhibit 11. Gold, brown purse. Do you recognize that purse?
yes.
And who did that purse belong to?
It belongs to Tina, Christina,
Your wife.
my wife.
I want the prosecutor to sarcastically ask him if that's his purse too.
And People's Exhibit number 12.
Yes,
Is that the watch and the pin that we saw in the previous photographs?
yes,
The Star Trek pin that you described for us?
yes.
And who did that belong to?
That belongs to my wife, Tina.
It was in your house on November 9th, 2021, when you left for work, to the best of your knowledge?
Yes,
And it was missing when you returned?
yes.
Your Honor, we'd ask that People's 11 and 12 be introduced and 10 be introduced and received into evidence.
All right, Mr. Yohn, any objection to introduction of People's Exhibit 10?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 10 is admitted without objection. Any objection to People's 11?
Probably something like that.
No.
Pat.
Exhibit 11 is without objection. People's 12, any objection?
No, sir.
Effectively, I saw it
Exhibit
fair and
12 will
square.
be admitted without objection.
Good luck with that in front of a jury.
Just a few more questions, sir, and we'll be done. Before November 9th, 2021, had you ever heard the name Bradley Yohn before?
No,
Had you ever seen Bradley Yohn before?
no,
To the best of your knowledge, had Bradley Yohn ever had any contact with your wife, Christina Lohman?
no,
Had Bradley Yohn ever been
It's a
in
jury.
your house
no,
before November?
no,
Had he ever worn shoes in your house?
no,
Had he ever touched anything in your house where it would leave a fingerprint?
no,
Had he ever touched anything in your house where it would leave that safe? Had he ever touched that safe to your knowledge?
no,
The car that we saw, that white Toyota Avalon, before November 9th, 2021, to your knowledge, had Bradley Yohn ever driven that car before?
no,
Had he ever had possession of that car?
no,
Did Tina give him that car?
no.
Did Tina give him her purse?
Objection, Your Honor.
Crowns?
The witness does not know whether or not such person, Tina CL, gave him the car or has ever been in the home, or what Tina may have done outside of his presence.
All right, I will overrule the objection as to the question asked regarding to this witness's, to the best of his knowledge, had Bradley Yohn ever been to the house or no Tina Lohman?
That was not a terrible objection.
State, and will sustain the objection as to the vehicle and purse questions. Suggest the state rephrase the question.
Shockingly.
To the best of your knowledge, did your wife give the vehicle to Bradley Yohn?
No,
To the best of your knowledge, did your wife give her purse to Bradley Yohn?
no,
To the best of your knowledge, did she give her voter ID card to Bradley Yohn?
no,
To the best of your knowledge, did she give her Star Trek pin that you and she bought at Las Vegas to Bradley Yohn?
she loved that. No,
Her watch, did she give that to Bradley Yohn to the best of your knowledge?
no.
Is that better?
Thank you, sir. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Yohn, cross-examine.
Your Honor, Yes, sir. Mr. Schmidt, I apologize for having to be here today. However, that is not under my control. I understand it's a
That's the way I
difficult
saw
time for you and your family. I'm sure you prefer not to be here.
Objection, Your Honor, he needs to ask a question.
All right, Mr. Yohn, if you could ask your questions of this witness.
You stated your name as Timothy Schmidt, obviously, correct?
Yes.
And your age and occupation, you're 60,
I'm 66 years old.
and your occupation is American Builder Supply, which you own.
Yes.
And obviously your relation to CL was husband, correct?
Yes.
You stated that you've known CL for approximately, or we're engaged in a relationship with CL for approximately 36 years, true?
Yes.
And been married for 2.
Yes.
So you own your own business, true?
Yes.
You're obviously a very smart man. You're educated. I will not take that from you. Your memory is pretty swell, would it not be?
It's pretty good.
Thank you. So you do remember the evening of November 9th,
Yes.
and you stated that you left work sometime around a bit after 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Could you determine maybe potentially 15-minute range of how the length of that?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. The witness said it was around 5.
Around 5. So
Overrule the objection. He may answer if he knows.
Would you repeat that again?
could you give a close description of the approximate time within maybe 5 or 10 minute range of the time of leaving your home? Leaving your place of business?
It would have been sometime after 5 o'clock.
Maybe 5:15, 5:20.
Possible. Well, it probably wouldn't have been that late. It would have been closer to right after 5 o'clock.
Okay, so 5:05, 5:10.
Yes.
Thank you. And you stated that you were at Farm and Home for approximately 40 minutes, correct?
I was at Farm and Home for some time. I don't have the exact amount of time it was, but yes.
He's an
And then you
excellent witness.
upon
Very
leaving
composed.
Farm and Home, you arrived at your house, your residence, approximately 6 p.m. a bit after.
Yes.
And you observed tire marks also in your yard. correct?
Yes.
Them aren't normal.
No.
Thank you. You stated what the garage looked like that morning. Mr. Schmidt, was the garage any different than when you arrived at home?
Well, the car was in the garage when I went to work.
Okay, and so she was still at home when you went to work.
Yes.
Upon arriving home, did you pull into the garage?
Yes. I believe I did. Yes.
And you parked possibly, potentially in the parking space you normally use, which is to the right of
Yes.
that pile. Thank you. And could you tell us maybe when you noticed that door, the inner door that had been kicked in, did you notice that maybe before you got out of your truck or instantly?
I didn't notice it until I got up to it.
Okay, thank you. But it was open, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt, I apologize for having to go into these details again. I'm sure you did not want to rehash them. You
Ask a question.
walked inside and your wife, CL, was sitting on the floor, correct?
Yes.
And as stated, that was in front of the chair.
Yes.
And she was sitting on a quilt, as you said.
Yes.
That was on a quilt.
She was sitting on the quilt, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was a quilt, and she was on it. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what your wife was wearing by any chance?
No, I don't.
She was wearing some type of
She had some clothing on, but I don't remember exactly what she had on, no.
pants, shirt, bra.
I'm not sure exactly what she had on.
You don't remember her having bottoms on.
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered. The witness has said he doesn't remember.
Well, we've gone at it 3 different ways, Mr. Yohn, so I'm going to sustain the objection. The witness testifies he does not recall what she had on.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is not only pointless, but it puts in the jury's brains, defendant, you knew what she had on because what you just did.
Mr. Schmidt, I understand you're in home building, American Builder Supply. You're probably educated in home building or whatnot. Could you tell us approximately how far from the door that chair might be?
I'm not sure exactly how far that is from the front door.
Maybe 20 feet, 15 feet.
It would be farther than that.
And upon walking in, you state that you observed a can and a knife in the middle of the floor, correct?
When I got into the house, I saw the can and the knife on the floor, yes.
Could you describe approximately the location of that can and that knife?
They were over in the kitchen area.
If you would give me 1 second, please. Upon entering, could you give your recollection of the events that occurred upon your entering the home?
Objection calls for a narrative.
Overrule, you may answer the question.
Would you repeat that?
If you would you relay once more the turn of events as you entered the home? What procedure you took, how you went about the situation?
I walked into the house. I saw my wife sitting on the floor in tears, and she told me they raped me.
And then you went on in to find a firearm for her?
And I went in and I got a firearm. She told me that she was told that they would be back.
Okay, and that firearm, where did you retrieve that firearm from?
I got it from the bedroom,
That would have been
closet in the bedroom.
the south bedroom, correct?
It would be a bedroom on the east side of the house, or the chest.
I like this guy. So I went and retrieved a firearm because she said they're coming back. And he's thinking, okay, you come back. I got something for you.
The drawers was.
Yes, sir. And then you proceeded back to your wife and you gave her the firearm for protection, correct?
Yes.
Then I believe in your statement, you stated that you then called the police, law
I
enforcement.
called 911, yes.
Do you remember around about what time that may have been? How long it was after you arrived home?
It wasn't very long.
Could you give a approximate minute
Nailed it.
length?
It was only a few minutes.
So you obviously talked to her for a small amount of time, retrieved the firearm and talked to her, and then you went out to retrieve your phone from your truck, correct?
Yes, she needed an ambulance, or she needed medical attention.
Okay. Oh.
He sure is.
In your statement, you stated that your wife was drinking some type of liquid when you arrived home.
I'm going to object at this point when he says statement. The witness didn't testify to that, so I'm not sure what statement he's referring to.
Sustained.
Mr. Schmidt you made a statement, correct? A video statement.
What's that?
You made a video recorded statement, correct? With officers of Adams County Sheriff's Department.
Objection, Your Honor, would be improper impeachment. At this point, he's not been confronted with that statement.
Sustained.
It's almost as if knowing some law now would be helpful.
And you stated you don't remember the clothing your wife.
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Prosecutor knows the law. He's doing a bang up job.
Upon calling 911, could you tell us approximately how long it was before officers arrived? To your best estimated guess.
I don't know exactly. It wasn't very long. They responded pretty quickly.
And you made that call at 6:09 p.m. True?
I don't remember exactly what time it was.
You stated that
He sure is.
CL, your wife, said that she had been robbed, sexually assaulted, and hijacked. Could you potentially go into a bit more detail as to what she stated to you upon the minutes of being there before the police arrived or before you made the 911 call?
Indeed.
She told me she had been raped. And I went and got the phone, and I went out in the garage, and I called the police department. I called 911.
Okay, and you made that call from the garage, or did you?
I made it from outside the house. I went out to see if anybody else was coming back, and I called the police. I called 911
Out in your garage.
from out in the garage.
Mr. Schmidt, is it possible that be false information?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Your Honor, there's a 911 call that shows.
Objection, Your Honor.
The objection's been sustained. You'll need to ask your questions to this witness.
That it was a very brief conversation, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Which conversation?
The conversation with your wife
Hold
was
on.
very.
When there's an objection, I'll need to address either sustained or overruled. And Mr. Yohn, I'm going to sustain the objection and ask that you ask a more specific question.
Are you aware that your wife, excuse me, are you aware that your wife CL stated that you arrived home?
Objection, Your Honor. Improper impeachment.
And that will be sustained.
The floor plan of your home where CL was located sitting on that floor. In the pictures, it appeared to be a very slim path in between the chair and the trash can or the wall. If you may, I assume that path was clear for you to walk through in order to retrieve that gun from that bedroom, eastern bedroom?
Yes. It's
Nothing.
enough for me to get through.
Nothing on the floor there, right?
Well, the cleaner was on the floor, but it wasn't right there in the hallway where I walked through. No.
All right. So the hallway was clear of debris, trash, clothing, or anything else that may have obstructed your path to this room to get to this gun, besides the can, the cleaner, correct?
I walked straight into the east bedroom and retrieved the firearm.
Your Honor, would you direct the witness to answer the question, please?
If you could rephrase the question, maybe he's not understanding what you're asking.
That walkway that you had to walk through, which is in between the chair and the trash can, during the pictures that we observed, I believe Exhibit 45 and 42. That's a very slim pathway, Mr. Schmidt. You observed the exhibit. You're a resident of that home.
Objection to form. This is crazy. He's just rambling.
I'm assuming the walkway was clear of debris, trash, clothing, or anything else that may have obstructed your path to this room to get to this gun, correct? Besides the can.
I believe there were some other items there on the floor, but it did not obstruct me from going in there.
Thank you.
Objection form asked and answered. It's fine. The prosecutor's all
And,
over it.
upon calling
This is
911,
painful.
you stated you were in the garage when you called 911. Did you remain in the garage until police arrived, waiting for them?
No, I went back in the house.
And could you tell us how you proceeded from that point on?
I checked on my wife to see if she was okay, and I looked out the windows to see when they were coming.
So you were potentially back, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'll reword that. So you were back and forth to the windows, correct?
Yes.
You have what windows in front of your home that would allow you to observe officers coming?
There's a set of windows there in the kitchen in front of the sink that you can look out over to the north of the house.
A single set or a double?
It's 2 windows.
You sure you did not stand there holding her hand?
Objection, Your Honor. Sustained.
Mr. Schmidt, can you describe the items that are there in your home, specifically there in the vicinity of that chair?
Objection, Your Honor, vague. Sustained, Mr. Yohn, if you could direct your questions to the specific chair and narrow it down for him so he can give you the answer you're looking for.
There is a green chair, a plaid chair, that your wife CL was to have been seated in front of when you entered the home, correct?
Yes.
And can you name off some of the items at that time that were in the vicinity of that chair as far as furniture, maybe in their placement?
Well, there would have been an ottoman that would have been off to the side, and there was a table between that chair and another chair.
Would it be safe to say that that ottoman is directly in front of that table? Or was directly in front of the table at the time?
It was
Hey, Meg.
moved out of the way, but I don't remember exactly where it was at.
You say that you were back and forth to your wife from the window to the, from your wife to the window. When you were
That's my specialty.
at your wife's side, what did you do? To the best of your knowledge or remembrance.
Yeah, but we don't know what it is.
I gave her a hug.
Or,
How did that go for you, dummy?
Mr. Smith, you stated that right next to the chair or in the center of the floor plan there was a can of cleaner. In the exhibit number 42, it appeared to be somewhat right there dead center of the aisle going towards the eastern bedroom. When you walk back and forth there, you did not disturb that can by any chance.
The judge can cut it off at some point, but you're going to get wide latitude when you're going away for decades, which he is. The judge is certainly going to err on the side of due process.
No.
Mr. Schmidt, is there a possibility that you took a look through the home before calling 911 or before police arrived to assess the situation?
No,
You did not.
I called 911.
So you didn't.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. Sustained.
Mr. Schmidt, are you the only person identified on the 911 call?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation and relevance. Will sustain. I don't know how this witness would know who was identified on the 911 call.
Your Honor, he made a 911 call.
And again, the objection sustained. I don't know how he would know if he's the only one identified on the 911 call.
And during your time in 911 call in the garage, you possessed the phone solely by yourself, correct?
There was no one else there. No, it was me.
Thank you.
Oh, he'd like to.
This occurrence, if I may, alleged criminal acts, something you'll never forget, correct?
No, I will never forget it.
And you're sure about your testimony here today?
Objection, Your Honor. Sustained.
Mr. Schmidt, I'm confused as to the answers I'm asking you about this 911 call. Could I introduce the 911 call, please?
Is he asking me, Your Honor? Is there any objection? Well, Your Honor, there's no foundation for the 911 call. This witness has not been confronted with it.
So yes, we object to the 911 call being played without the proper foundation by this defendant.
All right, so Mr. Yohn, if you lay the foundation for
Yeah.
introduction of the 911 call with this witness.
Your Honor, the foundation is Mr. Smith has stated he made a 911 call. He's obviously called law enforcement to obtain services such as medical services. I believe that foundation enough.
Oh,
All
sweet.
right, and the court will sustain the objection, finding that is not enough foundation.
Could you give me
Yep.
one, please, Your Honor?
Good luck.
Learn some law. It's okay. You're going to have like 40 years to figure this out with your sully.
When police arrived, your wife, CL, she was not naked, was she?
So we've given up on the 911 foundation, huh? Probably best.
She had something on top. I'm not sure. I don't think she had something on top, but nothing on her bottom.
And she did not move from that location until
Sure
officers
did.
arrived, correct?
No,
So essentially she was bare of clothing.
yes.
Do you recall how it is that she was removed from that floor, that she got up from the floor?
No.
You do not recall deputies having to.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has already testified he doesn't know how she got up off the floor.
It's cross-examination, so I'll overrule. Let me ask the question.
Do you, Mr. Smith, recall the deputies having to assist her in getting off the floor? Or is it a possibility she just remained there?
She was on the floor for a while. I'm not, I don't know how she got up.
To your recollection, could you tell us the secret events after the arrival of law enforcement?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
To your best recollection, your remembrance, could you tell us the sequence of events that happened upon the first arrival of law enforcement?
They, I don't remember all the details with it, no. They did go over and to see my wife.
You were present, correct?
I was there, yes.
Could you tell us where you were when they entered the home?
I don't remember exactly where I was at.
I assume they did a quick search of your home to make sure there was no potential threats, correct, or to secure the home?
No, not what I remember.
Mr. Smith, do you remember the name of the first responder?
No,
And are you associated or familiar with any of these officers that were at your home this night?
no,
You know none of them.
no,
You're not aware of or familiar with Mr. Wagner, Sheriff Wagner, or Chief Deputy Sam Smith, or Mr. Goodwin?
no.
Do you remember speaking to an officer in your garage about
Too much
an
to get
important
into
issue
right now.
concerning this matter?
Good question. but too
Your
much to
Honor,
get
if
into
you
right now.
object vague,
I will sustain the objection. You're asking this witness to decide what you might be thinking was an important matter. He may not agree with that it being important. So if you want to rephrase your question,
I apologize, Your Honor. I just don't want to leave him.
well, on cross-examination, that's exactly what you're supposed to do, Mr. Yohn, but go ahead.
Attorney would
Do
know
you
that.
remember
Just saying.
speaking to a deputy, specifically a female deputy, about your cards, your bank accounts, your monetary value in your garage?
No,
And you remained at your home until about what time?
Yeah, I like this judge so far too.
To the best of your remembrance?
I don't remember.
Or were you there the rest of the night? Were you...
No, I went to the hospital. My wife went to the hospital, and I went there after.
Excuse me, I apologize.
My wife went to the hospital, and I drove there on my own.
Thank you. And your wife went to the hospital and to collect evidence, correct?
objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained.
Is it true that your wife initially did not want to go to the hospital?
I don't remember what she said. I don't know.
There was a 911 call,
There was a 911 call.
and the emergency medical technicians did not come to the scene, correct?
Again, you didn't get the 911 call in.
I'll re-question you.
It's just sort of improper impeachment again.
It was only deputies,
Improv.
law enforcement, that come to the scene this night, correct?
Yes,
Thank you. So there were no medical emergency technicians, correct?
no.
Thank you. You do not recall her denying medical services?
No,
However, at a later time, you did go to the hospital with your wife, as you've answered just a few.
I went to the hospital, yes.
You went to the hospital by yourself, or
I went by myself.
you did not take her
I did not take her, no.
All right, thank you. Mr. Schmidt, these claims placed forth, how would you view them?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained.
And you stated that
There's no time of day for
your
that.
wife claimed she was raped, correct?
Yes, she said she was raped.
And that was the only thing she told you at the time, correct?
Yes.
Enough for me.
You've testified to jewelry being your wife's, to several other instances and issues. Mr. Schmidt, is it reasonable to believe, is it, in your reasonable belief, is it logical of any human being to deny services such as medical services and to not have them?
Objection, speculative.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation, relevance.
Objection sustained. You may rephrase the question.
It's almost like we both went to law school.
Your Honor, I apologize. I don't know how to rephrase the question. Obviously not. If you would give me one moment. Sure.
Well, you could have years and not figure this out, my friend.
Did your wife, in reference to the knife, did your wife maybe explain to you what time the male or female were able to gain access to this knife?
No.
Earlier, you stated that she told you, relayed to you that she was able to run into the house and the male and the female were in an argument. The male and the female suspects were in an argument in your garage, I'm guessing. She was able to run into the house and make it to the bedroom. And the defendant, myself, alleged to have come in and demanded jewelry, correct? And money?
She said she ran into the bedroom and yes, she said that the defendant or the man that came into the house wanted to know where the jewelry was at.
And you also stated that she relayed to you that she told the suspect, potentially defendant, that she had money at home, correct? That she would give them?
Yes.
And she didn't reference jewelry at that time, did she?
She said she had jewelry and she had money at the house.
Mr. Smith, briefly, one more time, could you relay the actions that your wife stated happened to her?
Judge, objection, asked and answered. We've covered this, I think, 3 times now.
Sustain the objection is asked and answered.
You've also stated previously, early on in your testimony, that your wife relayed to you that she was thrown downstairs, correct?
Yes.
Moments ago, you just said she was only raped.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
I will strike the comment by Mr. Yohn, and will instruct the jury to disregard such. And Mr. Yohn will be cautioned to ask the questions of the witness and not to attempt to testify or make argument until the appropriate time.
Your wife stated that in the car, the male.
Oh my God, he is just horrible. You know, she was raped and thrown down the stairs. She mentioned the rape first, probably the thing that stuck out in her mind the most.
Reached over and grabbed her, I believe, or was fondling her, and then proceeded to place his penis in her mouth. Correct?
No.
Not. So she never told you that the male placed the penis in her mouth anywhere in the car before the time.
I'm sorry, would you start over with that again?
In your earlier testimony, you stated that your wife relayed to you that the male in the car before arriving to the home reached over and was touching or fondling her, and then proceeded to put his penis in her mouth, correct?
Yes.
Understandable.
And was that, are you aware of where that may have been, where they stopped? Were they still driving?
I don't know.
And that male suspect stated, if your husband's there, I'm going to kill you both, correct?
Yes, she said that.
Mr. Schmidt, there's not only one gun, one firearm in your home, is there? In fact, there's several, correct?
There is more than one firearm in my house, yes.
And when the grandkids are not around, as you said, you tried to keep them out of reach of grandkids. These firearms are randomly placed in the home, correct?
I never said that.
Thank you. And Tina did not, excuse me, I apologize, CL did not tell you where she was at the approximate time the male kicked in the door.
She did not tell me exactly what time that was, no.
She did not give you an approximate location as to where she was in the house.
Well, she.
So far, the husband's a champ. He understands what's going on, but he doesn't care because he knows he's absolutely crushing this guy through his testimony.
Run into the bedroom. Now, after she locked the door, now exactly how long that took, and I don't know. It couldn't have taken very long to run from the door into the bedroom.
Thank you.
And your wife is, she's a 77-year-old woman, obviously. Has she had any surgical operations such as hip replacements?
Yes, she had a hip replacement.
And is she apt to run often?
Well, No, she didn't run, but
That's fine. I observed a walker in your home. You stated that there's a walker, an assistant device for people who tend to have issues walking. At times, she did utilize a walker, correct?
at times she did use a walker, yes.
Upon being thrown down the stairs in a violent fit, a violent rage, as that does not happen friendly like or
Objection.
playing sports. Upon being thrown down the stairs, did she state any further events in reference to proceeding further after that?
Would you repeat that?
After being thrown down the stairs, she did not describe to you what happened after that, besides the fact that they went to the safe, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt, I'd like to ask you about that safe. That safe is obviously, as we saw, built into the wall, and it is usually covered at probably all times, correct?
Yes.
And is there anyone else that would be apt to touch that safe handle, or anything about that safe? Maybe from the partition or the board that was covering? Does anyone else ever operate with that safe or go into it?
I would be the only one.
You'd be the only one. So grandkids aren't apt to, I'm sure they've seen it, but grandkids aren't apt to regularly touch it or pull the board off the front and touch on it, right?
No.
You stated earlier in your testimony that your wife relayed to you that something about locking the safe permanently and that the police are on their way now because they have notification of that safe if it's the wrong combination to bring, correct?
Would you repeat that?
You stated earlier in your testimony that your wife relayed to you that she told the suspect or suspects that they had locked the safe because it was wired to the police station, correct?
She told the suspect, excuse me, that the safe was wired to the police department, yes.
And then they proceeded upstairs.
That's what she said, yes.
And I'm sure you've had other conversations in the time after the alleged offense on top of the initial conversation with her at that time. She did not state anything further as to any other events that happened upon going upstairs.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has already testified that she told him they went upstairs and he bent her over her chair and raped her again. That's what the witness testified to. So now the defendant here is trying to confuse the witness by misinterpreting his previous testimony.
I'll sustain the objection if you could rephrase or re-ask the question. Perfectly honest, Mr. Yohn, I thought you were asking this witness about any other conversation he had had with the victim about her description of what happened. So if you could pinpoint the witness with your question as to the answer you're looking for, then hopefully you'll get the answer you're looking for.
And excuse me, Your Honor, I'll skip past that question and continue on. She stated that they proceeded upstairs, correct?
Yes.
And the male bent her over the chair and proceeded to rape her, correct?
She told me she was raped.
And Mr. Smith, earlier you stated that she relayed to you that she was bent over the chair. Sure.
I don't remember saying that.
I don't remember saying it, and you don't know how to impeach, and you don't know how to lay a foundation. So, good luck.
Your wife, I'd like to ask you about her personal mentality. You were on with your husband. You were around her daily. If I made the assumption that CL was a sharp person, meaning not only smart but intelligent, crafty, ingenious, of a stable mind, consistent in her manner of everyday life, would you agree that my assumption is accurate?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Sustained as being irrelevant as well as a compound question.
Your wife did not suffer from any dementia or Alzheimer's, did she?
No.
So she would have remembered things pretty well.
Objection, Your Honor, would call for speculation on the part of this witness.
Overall, he can answer the best of his knowledge.
Would you repeat that?
So her memory was actually pretty good, correct?
It was pretty good. Yes.
Maybe even spectacular.
Objection, Your Honor. Again, we're talking about vagueness now.
Sustain the objection.
Mr. Smith, I'd like to ask you a question or two about your Toyota Avalon, the white one with the license plate of ABS, I believe 1006. Could you tell me what year that was, to the best of your remembrance, roundabout?
I believe it was a 2018.
And that automobile did not have self-propelled autopilot driving installed in its model, did it?
What?
No.
Meaning it did not drive itself, obviously. Thank you. Is it true that your wife stated that the female in this criminal equation was the worst of the two?
Yes.
Oh my God, he's he's now making reference to his co-conspirator and trying to say she's worse of the two. It's so stupid. It puts you. Oh, all right. By the way, I'm seeing this fresh. I haven't seen this. I didn't know.
Mr. Smith, I'd like to ask your opinion.
Unbelievable.
Based on your knowledge and testimony, based on life, based on what your wife has relayed to you or had relayed to you. First, I apologize. I'll backtrack.
Absolutely.
Your wife stated the female was just verbally violent and threatened her many times, correct?
She said yes, she did.
And that was all other than rummaging through your house, ransacking it, and stealing everything, correct?
It's real close to that.
Yes, she said the female did. Yes.
Yeah. I'll reiterate for you. Obviously, your wife stated the male threw her downstairs, beat her, raped her, correct?
Yes.
Back to my original question, based on life and being a human being and the relevance of what your wife relayed to you. Mr. Schmidt, in your eyes, what do you see as worse, the male or the female?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant speculation, improper opinion.
Sustained.
You are aware that the female is simply supposed to be only verbally violent, correct?
The female threatened her with a knife.
Verbal threats.
Verbal threats, yes.
Thank you. Did your wife ever say anything about the female touching her?
Did the female leave DNA on the victim's diaper? Hmm?
I don't remember for sure what she all said.
Mr. Schmidt. Generally,
I'm sure,
speaking,
but I can't think of one.
excuse me, I'd like to ask you about your work in business. You both own and operate your business, correct? You stated that earlier.
I'm the owner.
You're the owner, and she worked with you though.
Yes.
And did y'all always use separate vehicles to arrive at work, apart from work, or did you sometimes go in the same vehicles?
No, we each used our own vehicles, or the two different vehicles that were owned by the company.
And is it possible that at times CL would not even go to work?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
All sustained.
Obviously, you stated CL left before you that day on November 9th. She left before you to continue on home, and then you went to farming home.
Objection, Your Honor. He never said that Seal was at work with him that day.
I would sustain. I don't recall that being testified to.
Mr. Smith, did your wife
No.
drink alcohol?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
I'll sustain. I don't find the relevance in the question, Mr. Yohn.
Mr. Smith, did your wife have any markings on her body that you could observe upon entering the home that were not normally there, that you're aware of?
I don't remember if she had any other markings on her or not.
Thank you. You've been with her 36 years, obviously. Did she have any permanent markings on her body, such as maybe skin pigmentation or birthmarks?
No.
None. None on your lower body.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overrule. Let me answer the question.
I'll restate that here.
You recall the question?
I'm sorry, I didn't
The
hear.
question was, did she have any birthmarks or pigmentation on her lower body? So let's let the witness answer the question before we move on, Mr. Yohn.
No.
If I may, Mr. Smith, was there any recent medical attention outside of 11/9 or 21 that your wife had, say, in the past 10 days, 5, 10, 20 days? That you're aware of? Medical visits, hospital visits?
There were no hospital visits. I mean, she had she went to the doctor.
And was that maybe within days of this occurrence, say 2, 3 days?
I'm not sure.
But there were recent ones, correct?
Yes, she went to the doctor.
Mr. Schmidt, I don't want to go too much further. I feel like I'm already violating you enough in this questioning. I hate to have you here as it is.
Your Honor, if we could just get to a question, please.
Mr. Yohn, if you would ask your next question of this witness, then we'll be here even less.
Knowing your wife for 36 years, being your wife for 2 years, do you see any reason that she would laugh your vehicle about claims such as this?
Objection, Your Honor, there's no evidence of that, and it would be speculation on the part of this witness.
Sustained.
Mr. Smith, I'd like to ask you about the cell phone service up on the bluffs.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled. Maybe we'll get to something relevant. Go ahead.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yes, I overruled the objection. That means you can ask the question.
How's the cell phone service up there on the bluffs where your house is located?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Again, I'll overrule the objection. Maybe we'll get to something relevant, but go ahead with the line of questioning, Mr. Yohn.
I'll proceed on, Your Honor.
What?
Based on your remembrance, do you remember your wife being persuaded to go to the hospital at the scene while you were there?
Yes, they told her she had to go to the hospital.
And who might that be that told her they had to go to the hospital?
I don't remember.
That it would have been law enforcement, correct?
Uh,
I mean, law enforcement and yourself were the only ones there, true?
her daughters were there also.
So it could have been law enforcement and daughters.
And the daughters, yeah.
In reference to your answer on that, I'd like to ask you another question, Mr. Smith. Do you remember the approximate time the daughters did arrive to the scene?
No, I don't.
And do you know how they got notification?
I called the younger daughter, Ilsa.
If you would give me a moment, John. Sure. Stand up.
He's good.
Mr. Smith, you stated that you went to the hospital by yourself in your own vehicle. Do you remember who took your wife to the hospital?
She went with her daughter.
And that would have been Ilsa or Heidi Young.
Yes.
And that was on 11/9 and 21, correct? The same night.
Yes.
Mr. Smith, before leaving for the hospital, could you shed a bit of light on what your wife did before leaving your home? What precautions she took? Maybe she dressed, how long it was, to the best of your knowledge, before leaving.
Yes, she put some clothes on her.
She didn't shower.
No.
She obviously, you said she had tops on. Did she change clothing?
I don't know.
Mr. Smith, are you, in regards to the sexual assault, are you aware of whether there was a protection, say a condom or anything? Did she explain that to you, relay that to you?
No.
And last question, Mr. Smith, She walked from that home, correct? She proceeded to go to the hospital. She walked out of the home.
Yes.
Your Honor, that's all I have. I would ask to recall at a later time if possible.
All right, he'll be available to be recalled in the future, but, any other questions at this time, Mr. Yohn? Of this witness?
I do, Your Honor, I do, one more, I apologize. That year around Christmas, do you recall being given any items of evidence from the Adams County Sheriff's Department?
No.
No cameras or tools?
No.
And you're sure about that?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Sustained. State, can I have some redirect?
Just 2 questions, Your Honor.
All right, let's go ahead and do that then.
Sir, your wife didn't go into specific details about her sexual assault or rape with you, did she? Specific details into great detail, fair to say?
No.
Did she feel ashamed about what had happened to her?
Yes.
And she didn't want to go to the hospital because she was ashamed of what had happened to her, fair to say?
I object, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor, nothing further.
Question is withdrawn. Jury should disregard. Any further recross based upon the questions just asked? Mr. Yohn?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. You may step down. Thank you. We're now at 12:15.
Well, that was brutal. I mean, that was just the morning. I'll have to assess. I wanted to do this trial, but I'm so hopelessly behind. I used that. Where is that from? I should give a shout out to where is this? Let me see if I can find it. I used I can't remember. It's called Muddy River News or something like that. They seem to take. This is on Law and Crime Network on their second channel. But that channel does it, and the reason why I use that is that they seem to pare it down and cut out a lot of stuff, and they seem to do a good job. So shout out to them. I put a link to that video in the description below. That is just the morning of day 1. There were 4 days last week on this trial. I think it might be too ambitious to try to catch that up this weekend. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at it. I'm gonna leave this video as is. It was interesting. It was awful. Yes, it's a horrific crime. This guy is not good, of course. He came real close to. I mean, he's not testifying, but he certainly implied admissions with the whole argument about the co-conspirator being worse. Among lots of dumb things he did, I think that might be the dumbest. The claiming the rosary is his is also quite offensive. Although I don't know what else you have available to you. They found a rosary. He's going to say, "Oh, it's mine." Nobody believes that, but what else could you say? I don't know. I think they can do that. Yeah, that's an awful case, and you see it in all its nastiness right there. This guy's headed for a short jury deliberation to guilty here, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll catch up. Maybe I'll just go to the end. At least now I have a foundation. I was talking about this case because people were sending me clips from it, and I was seeing little bits, like just for instance his opening statement, which was contained in this video, and I thought, I don't have any context. Then I saw the prosecutor's opening statement, which was excellent. I think the attorneys, both prosecutors, it's been mostly the guy during. He gave the direct examination of the husband, and he's been making all the objections. The female prosecutor gave the opening statement. They're both doing a very good job. I like the judge. I think he's calling it straight, and doing a nice job. Of course, the defendant doesn't know what he's doing. He occasionally does something okay in the mix, but I mean, I like he's horrible, as most pro ses are, but occasionally by accident he does something or makes an objection that's sort of on point. But then he does a hell of a lot more harm than good for himself. That's just the way it is. I'm guessing my sense of this. Everyone's saying this, but I have no idea about this, but my guess is he's just narcissistic, and he's getting off on reliving the crime. He knows that he's going to be convicted, and this is his last hurrah, and he's going to go away for a long time. I think he's just come to terms with that. And if every attorney he spoke to, if he ever spoke to an attorney about this, I'm sure that they would have appointed him one. Every attorney said, you got to take a deal because you're losing this case. They've got everything. They pick you up. There'll be more that'll be revealed during the trial, but we got it from the opening statement, the first witness, that, they pick you up and you're in possession of all this woman's stuff. Very specific stuff, a Star Trek ring, a watch that's very specific, her rosary, purses that are hers. And you get your fingerprints and DNA on her car, and diaper. I mean, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. So I think to the extent that he ever did speak with an attorney, they're saying, look, the best I can do is plea this out for you. He didn't want to hear that, because even on a plea, he's going away a long time. Yeah, he might save a few years, but he's going away for a significant part of the rest of his life. And I think he just thought, well, I'd rather just have my chance to make a mockery of the system for a few days, because I don't think I'm getting out. I think that's the calculation in his brain. Or I don't know, maybe he's so far gone he thinks he's got a chance. I don't know. That's possible. His defense is so stupid it's hard to follow, but I will give you my thoughts. What's going on in his little addled brain is that he's going to create reasonable doubt and say, she was thrown downstairs, but she walked into the hospital. Those things aren't inconsistent. Well, I can't remember him overruling leading. I can't remember the specifics of it at the moment, but the thing is with evidence is it's really difficult. You ask good questions, but I mean these things get complicated fast. I don't remember which specific ruling. I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't know that the prosecutor was leading or not. I don't know. As the judge pointed out to him while he was doing it, he should have been leading, but he doesn't know that. He's like, I'm trying not to lead. Well, dummy, that's what you're supposed to do on cross. Yeah, I'm sure it's about control. I think I got the same sense. I got the same sense from Brooks, even in their dopey little heads, which their brains don't function very well. I think they know they're done. So they think, well, here's my last party. I get to have people listen to me. And that's the last thing I'm going to do outside of outside of incarceration for a long, long time. I don't know what all I'm no again. I don't know criminal. I don't know what all the enhancements and everything else is, but I imagine this guy's going away for a couple decades at least. It'll be a long time. It'll be a long time before he gets out, if I had to guess. I hope so. He really should not go out. It is interesting to me that they didn't charge murder, but not so easy. Not so easy. If she dies a month later, then you get into a big causation fight that you don't necessarily need. When you've got an aggravated essay, carjacking, home invasion, you got a pile of felonies right there. You can put them away for a long time. So you don't want to introduce a difficult element, namely causation on a death that's 30 days later, which may very well have intervening causes, especially for a 77-year-old. And like I said, it may absolutely be unrelated. My guess is it contributed to it for sure. But the prosecution chose to plead it that way, and I defer to their judgment because I'm not the one looking at the medical records and figuring all these things out. The prosecution was excellent as far as I could tell. They knew their stuff. They weren't doing anything, making lots of objections that I agreed with. The judge overruled some of them, but that's okay. And I think the judge was calling it straight too. He's giving him some chance. He gave him a little. It's funny. He did, for instance, he objected on relevance when the guy asked about his cell service, and the judge overrules the objection, and this is very typical. A judge will be like, I don't see its relevance right now, but it's plausibly relevant. Give him a chance, and then he just spaces out and doesn't follow that line. It's like your one victory. It was reasonable for the prosecutor to object to it. It was reasonable for the judge to overrule it, and then he just craps himself and doesn't follow up. Same thing with the foundation. The foundation, you want to go who, where, why, what, when is the basics of foundation. I haven't thought about exactly what you need to do, but for starters, you'd say, did you make a 911 call on this date? Yes, and to which department? To the Quincy Police Department or whatever the hell it was, and then you start laying these things, and then you say, Judge, I'd like to introduce the audio of this call, and at that point, it either gets let in or even if you miss a part of foundation or something that the judge wants to hear, they'll sort of tell you. I mean, that's the way to do it. You're like, okay, what else do you need in this? And then you can ask a couple more questions. Eventually, you're getting that 911 call in. He thought it was all pointless. He thought he was going to impeach him on something that wouldn't have mattered one whit. It would have been a big waste of everyone's time. But if he'd known what he's doing, he could have gotten the 911 call in. And then he could have said, oh, but you said this, and it seems different than your testimony today. It really wasn't proper impeachment. But you're entitled to make that argument. You're entitled to say, but isn't it true on this date when you made the 911 call, you did this? Of course, he couldn't do anything because the prosecution hadn't put that into evidence, and he doesn't know how to lay a foundation. All of it's a tempest in a teapot because what he thought was grand, I could see where he was going. What he thought was grand impeachment was a big nothing burger going nowhere. That's not going to help his cause. But it was fun to watch me just stew in his own stupidity. And the prosecutor is very good with his objections. That's another thing too. People don't know how to judge these things right. Like if you make an objection and it gets overruled, if the objection has some basis and you're not just a kook, eventually you can lose credibility, and we've got nowhere near that. This prosecutor's excellent, but you should be making objections that get overruled. If you're not getting overruled once in a while, you're not trying. That's how the game's played. And you're definitely getting in your opponent's head, especially someone who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. You just keep making him think about law again. And then he's like, and then exactly what happens. He just gives up and goes to the next thing because he has no idea. So I think it's being handled very well. It is absolutely despicable. I knew it was despicable just from the reading of the charges, which is what I got when I was doing his opening statement. But to hear the story, and the opening statement from the prosecution and the stuff and this witness, it's just so despicable when you get into the details of it. Not that we didn't suspect it was, but it's absolutely disgusting to hear the specifics. But that's a criminal case. That's how the cookie crumbles. We're not in court on felony cases because people did jaywalked. We're in court on felony cases because people did bad stuff like this. All right, thank you all for coming out. I can't believe the crowd on a Saturday morning. I have to admit I did this primarily because I woke up this morning all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it was all cloudy and nasty. Although the afternoon looks better. I'm like, I'll stream this. I started looking at this. I'm like, I'll just stream it with them. Why am I scoping it? Why don't I just watch it with my peeps? It was fun, although awful. It was still interesting. Thank y'all for coming out. I'll see you soon.